And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome aboard. I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Marine Weather Outlook on this Friday, April 18th, 2025. And starting with the state of the sea ice on this Friday afternoon, you can see the plinias opening along areas of the coastline. Plus, we're in the season now where there's melting happening, and we've had winds that are going to have a little bit more of an easterly component to them coming here up on Saturday. So we're not looking at quite the push of wind and things that we had. We had very strong northerly winds here in the midweek period, but that is since let up. We do have another frontal system that'll be pushing in from the south and west as a low and frontal system moves across the Aleutians, and if anything, that'll have a tendency to maybe get winds trying to get back around west-southwesterly later this weekend, especially out toward St. Paul and St. George. But looking at the weather map late this Friday night and early Saturday, weakening area of low pressure over the northern Gulf. That's part of that split I talked about the other day. We had the main low come up this week, and then it headed eastward and weakened. Another part headed north up along the west coast. And we're finding as we go through tonight and especially Saturday, winds are going to relax here along the Arctic coast. There is a blizzard warning still in effect through 1 a.m. Saturday morning from Point Lay through Utqiagvik east through Dead Horse all the way over to Demarcation Bay. Brisk northeast to east winds continue to produce blowing and drifting snow this Friday evening, but as we head through the overnight and especially during the day Saturday, winds will be coming down. There is a push of colder air that'll work its way into central Canada, but that's going to bypass Alaska. And we've had this area of low pressure working its way eastward. That'll keep the threat of just some lingering rain showers and mountain snow showers going here along the northeastern Gulf Coast and the Panhandle into the day on Saturday. And then we find this lagging trough of low pressure across northwest Canada up into northern portions of the mainland. And that'll be a focus for a scattering of some especially daytime enhanced snow showers or mixed rain and snow showers. Off to the west, a couple of lows out here in the Bering. This one crossing the central Aleutians will become the next main system as we go up here through the weekend. So by the time we get into Sunday, we find still that lagging trough of low pressure in western Canada. But this frontal system will push up into the southwest coast, bringing areas along Bristol Bay, Kuskokwim Bay, lower Yukon, some additional wet snow that will mix with or even change over to a bit of rain. But notice the central pressure, nothing like the storm we just had come through this week. That low had a central pressure down below 980 millibars in the 970s. So this one will not be as quite as windy nor have as the heavy precipitation. As this weakening frontal system works its way eastward, that will induce a weak secondary low in the Gulf as we go through the later weekend. But in the meantime, look for south winds across the inner channels, Lynn Canal, Stevens Passage, 10 knots, waves running foot or two. For the outer coast, generally west-northwest winds outside of Gustavus down through Sitka, Craig, waves 8-9 feet, and kind of a mixed bag of either northeast or southeast winds there outside of Yakutat Bay and Cape Suckling. For Sunday, winds come down further, kind of variable winds, more or less around 5 to 10 knots. Southerly, mainly the case there in Lynn Canal with waves a foot or two. Variable around 5 knots, Stevens Passage, and waves a foot or two. And then maybe 10-knot winds, Ketchikan and Metlakatla. And as you get down toward Dixon Entrance, maybe 4 or 5 foot waves. For the outer coast, outside of Gustavus again, the icy strait, and off of Sitka and Craig, generally northwest to west winds 15 knots, waves 6-7 feet, and then northeast winds 10 knots out of Yakutat Bay, southerly winds to 10 knots around Cape Suckling with 5-foot waves. Pretty calm conditions too across the area of Prince William Sound and outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance, variable winds at just 10 knots, waves a foot or two within Prince William Sound, maybe 3-4 feet outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance. As we drop down along the middle and lower portion of Cook Inlet, winds will be westerly 15 to 20 knots with waves running maybe 3 to as high as 5 feet. For Sunday, we will see variable winds continuing in that area between Kayak Island and Hinchinbrook Entrance, 10 knots, waves 3-4 feet. East winds 10 knots 2-foot waves within Prince William Sound. Upper Cook Inlet, northeast winds 10 knots, waves a couple of feet. And as we get down toward the entrance, Kennedy entrance of Cook Inlet, east winds 25 to 30 knots with waves 5 to 6 feet. Winds will generally be southwesterly at 15 knots across Kodiak Island, and then as we go down along the upper portion of the Alaska Peninsula, either side there, Chignik or Port Hayden, variable winds at 10 knots. And finally, as we get down toward the lower portion of the peninsula, south-southeast winds at 20 to 25 knots with waves maybe a few feet. And then winds will generally become more southwesterly across the area on Sunday at 20 knots or so. Waves 6 to as high as 10 feet outside of Falls Pass on the North Pacific side. 3 feet outside here of Bristol Bay, maybe as high as 6 feet north of Cold Bay. So we have this weak low coming up across the central Aleutian Saturday with a frontal system arcing ahead of it. So ahead of that front, winds will be southeast to south, 20-25 knots. On the backside, winds shift more, try to turn back more toward the northeast to north, and then westerly at 15 to 20 knots west of Adak. And for Sunday, that feature lifts a little further north up towards St. Paul and St. Matthew. So as a result, winds will generally be southwesterly 20 to 25 knots across the Aleutian chain for the day Sunday. Along the southwest coast, variable winds 15 knots within Bristol Bay, southeast winds 15 knots in Kuskokwim Bay. Over toward the Pribilofs and St. Matthew, easterly winds to 20 knots. So the ice that's in place there may drift slightly westward, but look for generally south-southeast winds along the lower Yukon coast, turning southwesterly there, the wider expanse of Norton Sound between Imanak and Nome. And then on Sunday, with that front approaching, winds will be southeasterly, 20 knots within Bristol Bay and Kuskokwim Bay, and generally east-northeast 15 to 20 knots out of Norton Sound and down along the lower Yukon coast. East winds to 20 knots at St. Matthew, but turning southwesterly on the other side of that front across the Pribilofs at 15 knots. As we venture up through the Bering Strait, winds will be light along the west side of the Seward Peninsula, north side of St. Lawrence Island. Southerly winds maybe 5 knots or so. As we go up through the lower Chukchi Sea, southwest winds 10 to 15 knots. They will turn back to the east. So Wainwright up through Utqiagvik to Kaktovik, generally easterly winds to 25 knots. Those are down from what they were on Thursday and Friday, but nevertheless, still could be a little blowing snow in a few areas, but not like what we've had going on. The blizzard warning continues until 1 a.m. this Saturday morning, but conditions will begin to improve as we go through the day Saturday. And then by the time we get into Sunday, winds really fall off. We're looking at easterly winds of 15 knots from Kaktovik to off of Wainwright. As we drop down through the Chukchi Sea, winds easterly 5 to 10 knots off of Point Hope, Kivalina. And then as we come on down through the Bering Strait, northeast winds offshore there of Wales and Port Clarence at 10 knots. And then along the north side of St. Lawrence Island for Sunday, we expect easterly winds at 20 knots.